You know, I mentioned him earlier. You got really excited. Xander's eyes seemed like a guy that really piqued your interest.
Yeah.
Is this due solely due to the fact of like an amateur rivalry, or some sort of background that some of the fight fans don't really know?
Um, Xander's a great fighter. As of right now, I think he's at 54,
Hmm.
which is a weight class above me, but I'll be there soon. Um, Later on down the line, if his career keeps going how it's going, my career is going how it's going, we're both moving up in the rankings. I can see that as a mega fight.
Hmm.
Like a real big fight. He has all of Puerto Rico behind him. I feel like I got my community. I got all of my community. Soon to be, it could be like a Puerto Rico versus USA thing. And I feel like those create the big fights. Like when Floyd fought Madonna, it wasn't just Floyd, the money team fighting Madonna. It was Floyd, the American, fighting Madonna, the guy from Argentina. So it was all of Argentina versus all of America. So it could definitely end up in a situation like that. And I would love to be a part of that. And I feel like that's what creates legacies. So yeah, I'm definitely interested in that situation later on down the line.
And in your likings, you would want it to be more like Bernard Hopkins versus Trinidad, not William Jaffe versus Trinidad, right? The American
Yeah,
who
definitely.
So with all that being said, you've been in the ring with a lot of people, right? You've sparred a lot of people in the past. Gervonta being one of them. Throughout your journey, who else have you worked with? Oh, you worked with Jerron Ennis too, right? You sparred Jerron.
Yes, sir.
Who else have you been in the ring with that, kind of got some good work with?
I really don't want to leave anybody out, so realistically, you can just mentally sit back and ask yourself, like, anybody between, like, any of the top guys between really 35 and honestly 60, any of those top guys, we've shared the ring.
Okay. Give me one quick second. My girl is. My bad. All right. Perfect. So, the reason why I ask is there's a lot of fights coming up, right? Um, Gervonta Davis is fighting Frank Martin, and they've sparred each other. They've had sparring history, but now it looks like they may potentially get in the ring and make some money together. So, you've been in the ring with Tank. What's your honest opinion how that fight goes?
Um, I think that fight is a late round knockout.
Yeah.
Frank Martin is a top tier fighter. Um, but his top tier, him being a top tier fighter, and I feel like us boxers know he's a top tier fighter, but I feel like the fans don't think he's a top tier fighter. Due to that, I feel like he's gonna go in there kind of like with a point to prove. And I don't think he's gonna fight like himself. I think he's gonna be trying to force a knockout. And I always tell people, like, Tank's a high IQ fighter. If he knows it's a guy trying to force a knockout, trying to force a situation, similar to the Ryan Garcia fight where he caught Ryan with that shot in the second round. Ryan was really trying to knock Tank out. Like, he was really trying to land that big shot, and ultimately that got him caught. So I think that'll be a similar situation with Tank and Frank Martin. It'll probably happen in the later rounds. Frank will be pressing action, trying to catch Tank with a big shot because honestly they both have the ability, to land that big shot. But I think Tank will be the one that lands the shot in the later rounds and gets him.
Do you see anything that Frank can do to be able to neutralize anything Tank? Because I know he's a heavy puncher. People say his IQ's underrated. But is there anything that Frank can do that can maybe slow down Tank, you think?
Frank moves his feet very well. He has good movement. Um, He's a nice boxer. So I think him using his boxing ability may make the fight a little bit tougher. But it doesn't change the result in my opinion. Because like I said, like Tank is a very high IQ guy. Like most people don't really see him flex his IQ because he doesn't have to, because he ends up knocking the guys out. But yeah, he's a very, very high IQ, very talented boxer.
You know, when people talk about his IQ, right? Like you mentioned, and then just based on just only the fights that fans are privy of seeing, right? Not they don't have access to sparring, don't really get to see him work, but simply the fact is everyone who I know that knows him says like, wait till you see his IQ, wait till you see his IQ kicking. So when you watch his professional fights, right? What do you see that Tank's doing that isn't reflecting his IQ? Do you see Tank just simply knowing I could just knock this guy out? Or do you see him as I'm just gonna have some fun and this really isn't as tough as people make it seem it looks like on me?
Yeah, I feel like lately he's been doing a lot of like, he'll like d dissect the guy in the earlier rounds where like the I can see the commentators be like, well, he's losing these rounds, and which in some cases he is losing the earlier rounds. But I feel like that he's computing them, like breaking them down, like trying to figure them out mentally. And then in those later rounds, like that's when like all of a sudden it all clicks, and then it's like, oh my God, Tank is landing whatever he wants.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's a flex of an IQ. You're going out there, figuring a guy out, and then making an adjustment. So yeah, he's great when it comes to going out there with a specific game plan, and also the thing that he does. I feel like a lot of top level fighters do it as well, but you have to give kudos to his team. Like Coach Kenny and Coach Calvin always have a hell of a game plan that they feel like if Tank goes out there, uses his ability along with their game plan, is almost unstoppable.
And I mentioned the fact that you've been in the ring with Dron Ennis, right? And we don't know who Dron Ennis is going to be fighting, right? Ideally, we would have loved if it was Crawford or i.e. Spence or even some of the other guys in unifying the division. So can't really pick your brain on a fight that he will essentially be in, but just being in the ring with Tank and Dron Ennis, like obviously has elevated your game, right? And the fans are waiting to see that. But from what we've already got to see with Duran, what fighter or what fight do you think poses maybe the toughest threat for Duran Ennis?
Right now, the toughest threat really would probably be honestly like a Bud Crawford fight, you
Mhm.
know, and that really speaks highly on Jerron due to the fact that like you don't really get a tough fight till you get a pound for pound guy. That dude he's really talented. He's one of those guys who he's just as comfortable on the orthodox side as he is on the southpaw side. He's a great puncher with both hands. Another high IQ guy. So um, not too many holes in the game. So when you have guys with very little holes in their game, it makes them very tough to beat.
You would have been a potential great, I guess, barometer of seeing an honest opinion. Because if I'm not mistaken, Bomac was concerned maybe using you as a sparring partner for Errol Spence. I think it was just you fought in an opposite stance.
Yeah, yeah. It was brought to my attention. They were looking for like a bigger guy, and I was like almost the perfect mold because like I look up to Errol Spence, and a lot of people see me fight. They say he's like an orthodox version of Errol Spence, and the only thing that stopped them was, well, we're fighting Errol Spence, and Errol Spence is softball, and you know, yeah, it was almost like if they would have got me into camp, it was almost like they were getting to practice with fighting Errol Spence, so to
Yeah.
speak. But I'm an orthodox, and Errol's a southpaw.
So granted with that, I mean, the people that you surround yourself with, the people you've been in the ring with, the people you almost, potentially got in the ring with, just shows a testament of how great of a prospect, soon to be contender fighter that you are. And I think, like you said, a lot of people were hitting you up after the news kind of broke. I know I've chatted with your dad a few days before you went on Twitter and talked, and you, like you said, you went on the what's Remy Space on Twitter and kind of put some stuff out. So I'm sure a whole bunch of people are gonna be knocking on your door. And we're really excited to see where you land because we know the potential that you'll be able to bring into some boxing fights. And just wanted to leave the floor on any last messages that you want to tell the fans out there about, this time of just transitioning from Mayweather Promotion to soon to be announced signee.
Right now, we're making that transition to, a new home. So I just want the fans to know, like, you guys have been begging for me to be more active, and you guys want to see me more. You know, I had someone do a prospect list, and they said I wish I could put Jalil on this list, but he just doesn't fight enough. And I just want all the fans to know that, like, in this new situation, wherever it may be, I will be much, much, much more active for you guys, and y'all gonna get great fights out of me in the next 5 or 6 years, definitely.
All right, and what can they find on social media?
You can find me on Instagram at Jalil_Hackett, and you can find me on Twitter at Jalil Major HCKTT.